Welcome back to my channel, Hidden Points. Today, we're entering the wild interior world of the risk. This isn't the simple story of someone who just likes adventure, or someone who jumps from cliffs and rides fast bikes. The psychology of the risk taker is much deeper, older, and more emotional than most people realize. Imagine a kid standing on the roof of an old house. Their knees are scraped, their hands are shaking, and everyone below is screaming for them to come down. Yet the kid stays there. Not because they want danger, but because that height gives them a sense of control they never feel on the ground. For them, risk isn't chaos, risk is clarity. That kid grows into an adult whose heartbeat actually calms in moments that terrify other people. Because risk takers don't chase danger. They chase the peace that comes with total focus and total presence. Psychologists call this state the narrowing of consciousness. It's that moment when the mind stops worrying about yesterday and tomorrow and becomes fully, intensely alive in the now. Picture a woman whose life feels empty and repetitive. Then, one day, she books a one-way ticket to a country she's never seen. In that single moment of decision, the emptiness disappears, and she feels like herself again. Or imagine a man who feels like he can't breathe inside a normal routine, whose body feels like a cage. He makes a decision that shocks everyone around him, a choice that forces him into the unknown. And suddenly, his chest opens up, his mind becomes sharp, and the world feels real again. Risk takers often grow from childhood environments where stability was never safe. The unpredictable became their comfort zone. Some grew up with emotional chaos and learned early on that calmness can't be trusted. Others grew up hidden behind strict rules and suffocating expectations. The only way they learned to feel like themselves was by breaking something, by jumping over limits, by doing what no one expected. Dramatic examples show just how deep this goes. Think of the teenager who accelerates the car late at night. They're not doing it to show off. For the first time all day, they feel their own heart beating in a way that assures them they are alive. Then there's the young adult who quits their stable job without a plan. Their friends call them irresponsible, yet inside, they feel a profound sense of relief, because the risk gives them space to breathe again. Sometimes, the risk taker is the child who was never allowed to express their emotions. They learned to release that trapped energy through dangerous, impulsive acts. Adulthood just becomes a continuation of this unspoken rebellion. Other times, the risk taker is the person who never learned their own self-worth. They keep taking risks because somewhere deep inside, they believe they have nothing to lose. In the psychology of the risk taker, there's always a tension between fear and liberation. Risk gives them the illusion of control in a world where control was always missing. When a risk taker stands at the edge of something dangerous, they aren't thinking about death or harm. They're thinking about escape, intensity, and emotional clarity. Risk becomes a type of self-medication. It numbs the ache they carry inside. The risk taker is often misunderstood. People assume they act without thinking, but the truth is, the risk taker thinks more than anyone else. They feel too deeply. They don't take risks because they're careless. They take risks because it's the only time their mind stops drowning in thoughts and worries. There's a kind of internal silence that only arrives when everything external becomes loud and dramatic. Psychologists say that high-sensation seekers often have brains wired for lower baseline stimulation. This means their minds can feel almost asleep until something intense wakes them up. This intensity becomes a necessity, not a luxury. Imagine a person who feels numb in their daily life, but then feels electricity in their bones when they stand at the edge of a decision that could change everything. Imagine someone who feels unseen, invisible, ordinary, until they take a step that scares even themselves. Suddenly, they feel real, powerful, and undeniable. Risk gives an identity to those who never had one. It gives a voice to those who learn to stay silent. It gives meaning to those who feel empty. Risk takes the place of emotions they can't otherwise express. Sometimes the risk taker is actually escaping grief and trauma. Instead of sitting with their pain, they run into the next big moment. Because big moments can drown out the childhood memories they've never faced. Other times, the risk taker craves connection, yet they sabotage relationships because risk feels more comfortable and familiar than trust. They will push boundaries, break patterns, and shock people just to feel alive again. Understanding them requires compassion, because behind every risk, there is a story the world hasn't heard. The psychology of the risk-taker is really the psychology of a heart that beats too softly until the world shakes it awake. When they finally meet someone who understands their intensity, instead of judging it, they begin to learn that stability doesn't have to be boring and safety doesn't have to be suffocating. They begin to heal because they finally see that life doesn't need to be dangerous to feel meaningful. The risk-taker can become one of the strongest, most resilient humans once they learn to channel their intensity inward instead of outward. They learn that the greatest risk is not jumping from cliffs or running toward storms, but allowing themselves to feel everything they spent years avoiding. And in that moment, the risk-taker discovers something far more daring than danger. They discover the courage to be real. Thanks for watching. If this resonated with you, consider subscribing for more content like this. See you next time.